My name is Louis, and I'm a cloud security architect at Google. My interest in cybersecurity started as I was growing up. I had one computer, I loved it, but sometimes it would get viruses. And so I really had to figure out ways to remove the viruses and keep my computer usable. My role at Google is really to be an advisor to large enterprises that use Google Cloud to help them really understand how Google Cloud works and then secure the data that they trust us with. I'm incredibly excited about the developments happening in AI and cybersecurity because we're finding that it makes everyone faster and more efficient. AI has made me incredibly productive on a day to day basis. Sometimes I encounter things that I find quite confusing, and now I can really rely on AI to explain those confusing things in terms that are readily accessible to me and allow me to truly understand it. Because I can go ahead and be able to ask it to complete a task that I don't particularly enjoy, like revising a large document. And with AI's help, I can cut down on multiple hours worth of work and use that time elsewhere and do the things that I really love and really energize me. AI tools has really helped my team and I become more efficient because we can grab series of documents that are tremendously long, feed them into an AI system, and have a conversation with AI to really get the questions that we need answered and ensure that we're not spending a lot of time sifting through the parts of the documents that are irrelevant. It's important to verify the accuracy of AI outputs. I ensure the accuracy of the output generated by AI by asking a colleague for help and asking them to verify the actual output of the AI system. And we tend to call this the human in the loop approach. You don't need to know everything about AI before you start to explore how it works. Just start and play with it. It's quite interactive and there's multiple ways to interact with it. So try speaking to it, give it pictures, ask for pictures, but really expand on your understanding of it by using it in your daily life. I had a bit of a negotiation with my landlord about rent increases, and I used AI to really help me craft a convincing case for why the landlord should do the things that I was asking them to do. So AI became a really powerful tool to create a very influential email that still was convincing and allowed me to represent myself well in these negotiations. AI is advancing at the speed of light because every day there's something new happening and things to keep track of. It is transformational in this current landscape. AI is transforming the way we approach everyday tasks in work and in life. Using AI can help you get routine things done more quickly and empower you to spend more time in places where you can have the most impact. Think about your typical day at work. If it's anything like mine, you have a lot of things to do and not enough time. Some days, your to do list might seem never ending. But what if AI could help? As a fellow cybersecurity professional, I'm here to share a few situations you may encounter where AI can help you work smarter and faster, and I'll show you how to do it. You'll discover how to use AI to understand complex security frameworks, identify vulnerabilities, and more. Hi, my name is Louis, and I'm a cloud security architect at Google. In my role, I help technical communities harness the power of Google Cloud by sharing my expertise, creating technical content, advocating for product improvements, and leading workshops. AI tools are opening up new possibilities to work faster and smarter. From navigating complex security frameworks to finding bugs in my code, AI has helped make me more efficient and creative in my daily work, so I'm excited to share how I'm using it. To get the most out of generative AI or Gen AI, it's important to write an effective prompt. A prompt is the input you provide to the AI model to elicit a specific response. A good prompt follows a simple framework: task, context, references, evaluate, and iterate, or TCREI. If you ever forget a step, just remember, thoughtfully create really excellent inputs. First is task. What do you want the model to do? Fairly simple and straightforward, right? We can break task into persona and format. Persona refers to what expertise you want the Gen AI tool to draw from. You can ask the tool to take on a persona like a professional speechwriter or a marketing executive with 15 years of experience. Or you can ask it to create output for a specific audience like a customer or your manager. You can be as detailed as you like when adding a persona to your task. Format refers to how you want the output to appear, whether that's a bulleted list, short sentences, or a table. And keep in mind, the task should be clear and specific about what you want the model to do. Next, you'll include context. These are the necessary details to help the GenAI tool understand what you need from it. This is the difference between writing, "Give me some ideas for a birthday present under $30," and "Give me 5 ideas for a birthday present. My budget is $30." The gift is for a 29-year-old who loves winter sports and has recently switched from snowboarding to skiing. Third, sometimes you'll add references for the GenAI tool to use while creating its output. You just asked the GenAI tool to give you ideas for a birthday present, right? Well, if you add examples of birthday presents you've given in the past as references, then the GenAI tool can give you a more useful output. Keep in mind, there aren't always going to be clear references of what you need, especially if you're working on something more abstract or searching for ideas and inspiration. Prompting is all about being clear and specific in your instructions. Use natural language. Write as if you're speaking to another person and express complete thoughts. Okay, so you've included the task, context, and references in your prompt. Once you have the output, it's time to evaluate. Ask yourself if the input you provided gave you the output that you needed. This leads us to the final part of the framework: iterate. If you evaluate your output and determine that you're not getting what you need, you can try again by adding more information or editing your prompt. Iterating is a key part of prompting effectively. One more note on the framework. There are plenty of ways to construct an effective prompt. The order of how you construct a prompt is less important than the substance of the prompt itself. As long as you're thoughtfully creating really excellent inputs, your outputs should be great. As we explore how to use AI as an IT professional, keep in mind that AI works best when used as a complement to our uniquely human skills and abilities. You should always use AI responsibly by applying a human-in-the-loop approach. AI is a useful tool to help you accomplish tasks, but it requires human involvement. No AI tool has the depth of experience, practical knowledge, and interactive skills that we do. That's why a human-in-the-loop approach is key to using AI responsibly. It combines machine and human intelligence to train, use, verify, and refine AI results. In practical terms, this means being mindful of what you put into an AI tool and always evaluating and verifying what comes out. When you work with AI tools, carefully consider if you need to use confidential or sensitive information to perform your task, and always consult your organization's rules or policies first. Even when you're using AI tools outside of work, you should avoid entering personal or confidential information, and always check how the data you enter might be used. One last thing. There are a lot of Gen AI tools out there. I'm going to demonstrate how to prompt using Gemini, but all of the techniques and best practices you'll learn can be applied to other Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, or Claude. AI is already playing an important role in keeping people and organizations safe, from detecting threats to incident response. If you're like me, you might have gotten interested in cybersecurity to help with this important work of protecting organizations, their customers and employees, and their sensitive information. It probably wasn't so you can get bogged down in time-consuming tasks like debugging code or sifting through lengthy documents to locate a specific control. As cybersecurity professionals, AI can help us focus on higher level initiatives that need our unique expertise, problem-solving skills, and insights so we can bring more value to the organization as a whole. So, let's get started. As a security analyst, it's your job to identify your organization's assets and risks. And based on the risks, you'll implement the necessary controls from the security frameworks that your organization uses. As a reminder, security frameworks are guidelines for building plans to help mitigate risks and threats to data and privacy. They provide a structured approach to implementing a security lifecycle. Security frameworks are essential to help us do our jobs. But even for seasoned security professionals like me, they can be overwhelming sometimes. For example, the United States National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, publishes a 492-page document called the NIST Special Publication 800-53, which outlines security and privacy controls. This is a crucial tool for cybersecurity analysts. Understanding these controls can help you ensure that your organization's practices align with industry best practices and regulatory requirements. But since these documents can be lengthy and dense, locating specific controls and understanding their nuances can be a time-consuming challenge. That's where AI can help. Picture this. Imagine you're tasked with enhancing the security posture of a non-federal system. You want to follow the NIST standards, but given the context, the enhancements outlined in the guidelines aren't mandatory, though they are highly desirable. Your goal is to understand the essence of SI5, how to practically implement it, and which enhancements might be valuable to incorporate. Prompting a Gen AI tool like Gemini could help to gain a deeper understanding of the NIST security control. We could write something like, I'm a security analyst and I need help understanding control SI5 in NIST 800-53 Rev 5. What does it ask me to do? How can I implement this control? And what enhancements should I consider adopting? I'm not developing a federal system, but would like high levels of security, so the enhancements are not requirements per se, though they are desirable. You might be thinking, this is a pretty detailed prompt. Well, remember how I mentioned that providing context is a best practice when it comes to prompting? The NIST security framework is tailored for developing a federal system, but we're not doing that in this example. We gave Gemini this detail so that it recognizes that any enhancements are optional, not required. In the context of NIST, an enhancement is an addition or improvement to a control intended to make it stronger. This information helps Gemini generate a response that's specific to our needs. So, let's check out the output. Here we go. Gemini provides an explanation of SI5, including what it asks you to do, how to implement it, and enhancements to consider. It even provides some important considerations that we might want to keep in mind. In this case, I agree with these suggested enhancements. In fact, I'd recommend the same ones myself. Cybersecurity professionals like us play a crucial role in safeguarding sensitive information. Familiarizing yourself with Control SI5 can help you mitigate potential security risks and contribute to a more secure data environment. And the process of understanding what this control means can be made much easier with the help of a Gen AI tool to explain and provide insights. If you're still stuck on a tricky topic, control, or framework, don't give up. Gen AI tools are incredibly flexible, so don't hesitate to ask for a different explanation. For example, you could ask to explain this to me like I'm a brand new cybersecurity analyst. This might prompt the Gen AI tool to use simpler language, avoid jargon, and focus on the core concepts that you need to grasp. Or you could ask something like, break it down for me as if I'm in elementary school. This might help make the explanation simpler. You could also be more explicit with the type of explanation you're looking for. You could ask to use analogies or metaphors to make the concept easier to understand in the way that you prefer to learn. Or you could even ask things like, can you give me a real-world example of how this works? Which can help connect the concept to practical applications and make it more concrete. So, try it out yourself. Think of a NIST standard or guideline that you want to learn more about and experiment with a Gen AI tool to help you understand it better. Let me leave you with one more pro tip. In this example, we typed our prompt into Gemini. If you'd prefer, you can also activate the microphone feature. This lets you quickly add more information, start a new prompt, or iterate on an existing prompt, all using your voice. The microphone feature can be especially useful in an example like this one, where you need help understanding a complex topic. In your work as a security professional, writing code can help you complete repetitive tasks and processes with accuracy and efficiency. Coding helps reduce the risk of human error and can save hours or days compared to performing the work manually. But I have to admit, I'm not the best programmer. And even the best programmers write code that may contain bugs. Trying to find bugs in code used to be really frustrating to me. I would often realize my code had bugs because something wasn't working right. But to me, the code seemed perfect. I'd be staring at the screen, trying to spot an error I just couldn't find. With Gen AI tools like Gemini, I no longer have to spend hours searching for bugs. And better yet, sometimes these tools even find bugs that I didn't realize were bugs. Let me explain what I mean. Let's say you wrote code using the Python programming language to create a function that analyzes logs. Your intention is to use the value of login analysis in a conditional statement. When the value of login analysis is greater than or equal to 3, then the login activity will require a further investigation and an alert will be displayed. Of course, there's a chance the code contains bugs. A Gen AI tool like Gemini can help as a code reviewer. Here's an example of a simple prompt you could enter. What bugs, if any, are in the existing code? Then you can copy and paste the code you want and run the prompt. Good news first, the code basically works. It does what it's supposed to. It looks at someone's logins today, compares that to their usual activity, and raises a flag if it seems unusual. But a zero division error occurs when a program tries to divide a number by 0. Mathematically, this is impossible. Here's what happened. In the code, you're calculating the ratio of logins by dividing the number of times a user logged in today by the average number of logins per day. However, Gemini correctly noted that if a user doesn't have an average number of logins per day, which may happen because they're a new employee, the program would not work. Even more helpful than identifying the bug, Gemini generated a recommended check so the code handles this situation gracefully. It proposed adding a conditional statement that generates an error when the average number of logins is 0. This ensures that the error is captured without the error breaking the code. Unknown bugs like this one, in this example, can compromise the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our systems. That's why it's so helpful to have a Gen AI tool scan your code for common errors, vulnerabilities, and potential performance bottlenecks. Even if your code seems to be working, as the one in our example did, Gen AI tools can identify bugs arising from edge cases that you might not have considered. If you're unsure why the bug is an issue or how it can be prevented in the future, ask the Gen AI tool to explain the proposed solutions. And make sure to verify the recommendations. Review the suggested changes and make adjustments as needed. A quick note before we move on. When using Gen AI tools to help debug code, providing too much context within the prompt can sometimes be counterproductive. This is because code, by nature, is precise and structured, so bombarding the AI with extraneous details can distract it from the core issue. The key is to strike a balance, provide enough information for the Gen AI tool to understand the problem without excessive details. This is not the case with many other prompts, as adding additional context often produces better, more detailed output. Precision and the right level of context are key when prompting for code. So, we've explored how Gen AI tools can identify bugs in code. In addition, I like to use Gen AI tools like Gemini to update and improve existing code. Ultimately, this helps me learn how to write better code. Imagine this scenario. You're working as a new security analyst, and the Python code you're using for log analysis was created by a colleague. You might not have much experience with Python yourself, so you want to see how a Gen AI tool like Gemini might be able to help. You could start by writing a prompt like this. I'm a security analyst, and I've been tasked with improving a coding project that my colleague originally worked on, but I have limited experience with Python. Update the code to add comment lines that explain what each section does. Then suggest key considerations I should keep in mind to improve it. Next, copy and paste the code in question Immediately, Gemini evaluates the code. In this case, it says that this example is a good foundation for analyzing security logs, and it adds comments across each line to explain it. Your colleague should have added comments when writing this code, but that's okay. Sometimes I'm guilty of writing code and forgetting to add comments myself. When that's the case, I've used Gemini to help with comments for code that I created. This makes it easy for me to copy the commented code and use it later. The prompt also asked Gemini to suggest ways to improve the code. It offered 5 ideas and explained each one. Now you have a clear idea of what you should do next, although you should make sure to check the work. That's one way of keeping a human in the loop. In this scenario, we used Python. GenAI tools can help with other programming languages too. Try asking for help with a coding project you're currently working on and check out the suggestions it provides. Also, this scenario worked with existing code. GenAI tools can help you get started with writing a program from scratch too. This can save lots of time and boost productivity. There are many ways that GenAI tools can help update and improve code. So, whether you're working with existing code or starting with code from scratch, explore the power of GenAI. It's a valuable tool to have in your cybersecurity toolkit, helping you learn, grow, and become an even better analyst. For every asset that needs our protection, there are dozens of vulnerabilities or weaknesses that can be exploited by a threat. That's a lot of vulnerabilities. And the amount of information about all of these vulnerabilities can be overwhelming too. Experts share their opinions on social media, organizations release statements, and colleagues might discuss it at work. But what if we just want to understand the basics of a vulnerability? What is it, and what might the impact be? I'll admit, sometimes I felt intimidated when asking other security specialists basic questions about vulnerabilities. And what I really want is impartial information. So in my role, I use GenAI tools to understand security vulnerabilities and identify how critical they are. These tools can also assess a vulnerability's potential impact on an organization's systems and provide immediate mitigation steps even before official patches are available. As a security professional, that's huge. Here's an example to illustrate what I mean. We could write a prompt like, I am a junior cybersecurity analyst new to the field. I've recently become aware of the following vulnerabilities: server-side request forgery, injection, cryptographic failures, and broken access control. Define what each of these are, identify their potential impact, and provide suggestions for immediate mitigation steps in case I encounter these issues in the future. You'll notice that we added context, the C, in our prompting framework by telling Gemini that we are a junior cybersecurity analyst who is new to the field. This helps Gemini tailor a response that's appropriate to you and your skill level. We've asked to learn more about these vulnerabilities, identify their impact, and get suggestions on what to do next. Let's see what Gemini has responded. Great! The output here has clearly defined each vulnerability, outlined its potential impact on the organization, and offered some initial thoughts on mitigation strategies. This information is essential for us cybersecurity professionals to help build a strong foundation of knowledge and effectively protect organizations. Remember the prompt framework we discussed in the first video, TCREI? This is where we're going to put the E, or evaluate, into action. Maybe Gemini gave exactly what we needed to understand the latest vulnerabilities, but some of the mitigation steps here are short, and we want to make sure that we have all the information we need. That's where the I comes in. It's time to start iterating on the prompt to get the most accurate and useful results. As a reminder, iteration is the process of refining and improving AI prompts and outputs through repeated cycles of testing and adjustments. Here are a few tips you can keep in mind. When evaluating your prompt, do you find any areas where the output didn't align to your expectations? If so, there may be opportunities to provide the AI tool with more specific guidance about what you need. Remember, an AI tool can only provide results based on what you tell it to do. So make sure your prompt has enough detail to get a useful response. Or think back to the R in our prompting framework, references. Can you share an example of what you were expecting? Providing examples in your prompts can help the AI tool understand what you want. If you're hoping to find a specific format or type of analysis, show the AI tool an example. Another thing you can do is check your phrasing. Were you as clear as possible? Try breaking your instructions into shorter sentences. This can help you improve the output the next time. Are there parts of the output that you did like? For example, imagine the AI tool gave you 5 ideas for a brainstorm and you liked 2 of them. In your next prompt, explain why you like those 2 and ask the AI tool to provide a new list of ideas based on your reasoning. You could even point out why you didn't like the other 3 ideas and ask the tool to take that into account for the next time around too. So how could we iterate in this particular scenario? Well, we might ask Gemini to explain the mitigation steps in more detail, or to rephrase any parts of the explanation that were confusing. As the Gen AI tool responds, here's another tip. Keep asking why until you get the answer you need. In this case, you might want to keep asking why to learn more about the root causes of the vulnerabilities or their potential impacts. The key is to experiment with your prompts until you're satisfied with the information you've received. So there you have it, a judgment-free zone for learning about vulnerabilities. Don't forget about the human-in-the-loop approach we discussed earlier. Make sure you verify the information that the Gen AI tool provides against reliable sources, since AI outputs can sometimes be inaccurate or out of date. Now, let me share one more bonus tip with you. If you're getting ready for interviews, you can ask a Gen AI tool like Gemini for sample interview questions about vulnerabilities. And once you've practiced answering the questions yourself, ask the tool to give its answers to the same questions so you can compare. This can really help you prepare and practice your answers. Try it out. I'll state the obvious. Detection and incident response are an important part of our work here in cybersecurity. Security analysts monitor networks to identify anomalies and suspicious network traffic patterns. These anomalies generate alerts, and when security analysts receive alerts, they work to investigate the alerts by reviewing logs. Gen AI tools can act as troubleshooting assistants to help with detection and response. Let me take you through an example. Let's start with a prompt like this. I've been tasked with addressing and resolving 3 intrusion detection system alerts about suspicious network activity. Review the alert information provided below and help me prioritize these threats based on the severity of the suspicious activity and the potential impact on the system. Now, copy and paste the alert information, which will provide Gemini with the context that it needs to respond. Let's check what the output says. Immediately, there's a prioritized list. Under each priority, there's an explanation for each alert and why it's prioritized in that way. I also appreciate that the output brings up some additional considerations, including a reminder to check for any correlations between alerts, as the SYN flood could be a diversionary tactic, and a recommendation around having a well-defined incident response plan to guide my actions through such events. Remember, an incident response plan is a document that outlines the procedures to take in each step of incident response. When an incident occurs, incident response teams must be prepared to respond quickly, efficiently, and effectively, which makes a plan really essential. Checking your incident response plan should always come first, but it may not include every single scenario. If an incident occurs that's not in your plan, consider using a Gen AI tool like Gemini to identify the appropriate response and prioritize the alert. And if there are alert types or vulnerabilities you realize are missing from your incident response plan, you can use a Gen AI tool to help you document the appropriate action. Playing and experimenting with prompts is the best way to figure out how to get results that are useful for you. Getting the output you want can be a journey sometimes, and the only way to get there is to get comfortable, explore, and learn what path works for you. Just like any new technology, we all need to try, test, and play in order to learn how to use AI. I really enjoyed being able to share some of the ways I'm using AI in my work as a cybersecurity professional, from helping to detect threats to updating code. I hope this can help you start to use AI in your role. My challenge for you: Think about the work you're already doing. Is there something that's taking you a lot of time? A project where you need some ideas to get started? Commit to experimenting with AI for something that will make a real difference to you and your work.